Commander Ryland stood at the edge of the observation deck on his ship, Orion Dawn. Stars twinkled like quiet fires in the black sky. The crew was calm. It was supposed to be a simple exploration mission to the far edge of known space, but everything changed when the gravity well pulled them in. Without warning, a massive force dragged their ship toward an unknown system. Lights flickered, the engines cried. Ryland shouted commands, but it was no use. A strange energy wrapped around the ship like an invisible net before anyone could react. A bright flash filled the deck, then dashed silence. Ryland woke up alone in a circular chamber. The walls were glowing blue. Strange symbols floated in the air. His hands were not tied, but something in the air made it hard to move too fast. The door opened. A tall figure entered. Her skin was a deep violet, and her golden eyes glowed. Like suns, she wore a long cloak with silver designs that shimmered as she moved. A crown floated above her head, spinning slowly. She walked straight to him. "I am Queen Velthera of the Ceridian Empire," she said. Her voice was cold but clear. Ryland stood up slowly. "Commander Ryland of the human vessel Orion Dawn." He replied. "You were taken for a reason," Velthera said, staring firmly into his eyes. "Your species has entered forbidden space. Your presence was detected. You are now under Ceridian rule." Ryland stayed calm. "I'm not here to invade, just to explore." "That does not matter," she said. "You are mine now, human. You belong to me." Ryland blinked, surprised by the words. "I don't think humans work that way." The Queen's eyes narrowed. "You will understand soon. You will stay in my palace. You will learn our ways. And in time, perhaps, I will learn yours." Ryland took a deep breath. He realized arguing was pointless now. He needed to observe and survive. "Fine," he said. "But I don't take orders like a servant. I'll cooperate, but I keep my own mind." A small smile appeared on Velthara's face, but only for a moment. "You are bold," she said. "Very well. We shall see how long your spirit lasts." 2 guards entered. They were tall and silent, with armor that looked like it was made of liquid metal. They nodded and led Ryland through winding halls filled with crystal lights and floating platforms. The palace was not just big, it was alive. Walls changed color as he walked. Strange creatures floated in tubes. The air smelled like a mixture of rain and fire. Alien servants passed by, some with wings, others with glowing eyes. All of them looked at him with curiosity and fear. He was the only human here. Ryland was taken to a private chamber. It was large and filled with strange technology. A soft bed, glowing plants, and a screen showing distant galaxies. "This will be your space," said a calm voice. A floating sphere hovered near the ceiling. "The Queen wishes for you to rest. Tomorrow, your lessons begin." "What kind of lessons?" Ryland asked. "Culture, language, obedience." Ryland raised an eyebrow. "Yeah, we'll see about that." The orb floated away. He was alone again. He sat on the edge of the bed and looked around. No cameras at least none he could see. The walls shimmered gently like water, despite everything. Ryland didn't panic. He had trained for deep space missions. He knew how to stay calm, think clearly, and adapt. Still, he felt something strange. Not fear, but curiosity. Why did the Queen claim him? Why not question him like a prisoner? Call him hers. He lay back on the bed and closed his eyes. Images of his crew flashed in his mind. Were they safe? Had they been captured too? Or were they sent away? "I'll find out," he whispered to himself. "I'll figure all of this out." The next morning, the doors opened. 2 alien attendants entered with soft footsteps. One had skin like polished stone. The other had bright feathers instead of hair. "Time for first meeting," said the stone-skinned one. "With the Queen." Ryland got up. "Let's not keep royalty waiting." He was brought to a tall room with glass walls. Stars floated all around, like the palace was hanging in space itself. At the center stood Queen Velthara. This time, she was alone. "You slept well, I trust?" she asked. "Not bad. considering I was kidnapped, Rylan replied. She didn't seem offended. You're not a prisoner, Commander. You are my guest. Guests usually get a choice. I gave you a truth, not a choice, Valthora said. You are mine now, and your presence will help shape the future of your people and mine. Rylan walked closer. What do you really want from me? She studied him for a long moment. Understanding. Your kind is. It's unpredictable, emotional, dangerous, but also creative, alive. I want to see if there is more to your species than noise and war. And you think keeping me here will help? I think you will help, she said softly. If you are truly different, Rylan stood tall. You want to know humans? Fine, but I'm not a tool. I'll speak freely. I won't play a puppet. For the first time, Valthera looked, intrigued. Very well, Rylan, of Earth. Let the game begin. Rylan woke early the next morning. The room lights gently grew brighter, like a sunrise. His strange new quarters still felt like a dream. Alien vines moved softly across the wall. A low hum filled the air, as if the palace was breathing. He sat, up and stretched. Day 2 in a palace I never asked to be in, he said to himself with a small smile. The floating orb from before returned. Good morning, Commander Rylan. Your schedule today includes culture, orientation, and language exposure. Sounds fun, he said dryly. 2 attendants arrived again, leading him through the golden hallways. Alien nobles passed by, tall, graceful beings with glowing eyes and elegant robes. Some whispered as they saw him. Others simply stared. Rylan ignored them. He was brought into a high-domed chamber. A wide table stood in the center, covered with objects, books, tools, crystals, and a glowing cube that hovered in the air. The queen was already there, sitting at the far end. Sit, she said calmly. Rylan obeyed. Are we having a royal breakfast or a test today? Valthera gave a small nod. Both in a way. These are items from our world. You will learn their purpose. Speak your thoughts freely. Rylan picked up a thin black stone. It feels like metal, but warm. What's it for? Memory stone. The queen replied, It holds dreams. Rylan turned it over in his hands. You mean ... people record what they dream? Yes. It helps us understand their thoughts, especially fears. Fear builds loyalty, rebellion. Rylan raised an eyebrow. Humans don't usually write down dreams. Barely understand. Then Valthera tilted her head slightly. Strange. You are always chasing knowledge, yet forget what your own minds create. We're complicated. Clearly, the lesson continued. Valthora explained each item, but Rylan didn't just listen. He asked questions, sometimes unusual ones. Why does this light change color when I hold it? What's this tiny carved symbol? Family mark. How do your children learn these things? The queen answered each one. But she began to notice something. He wasn't just learning about her world. He was watching her. The way she paused. The slight change in her tone. Even the way her hand hovered over certain objects. She saw it in. His eyes curious, not afraid. After the lesson, she stood. You learn quickly, she said. Curiosity helps, Rylan replied. And ... you're not like what we expected either. Valthera looked surprised. Explain. We thought Ceridians were emotionless, cold, but you care deeply about your people, your rules, even how I respond. She didn't answer. She turned and walked toward the exit. Come with me, she said. Rylan followed. They entered a quiet garden filled with glowing plants and soft streams of light. The air felt fresh, peaceful. It was the first place that didn't feel like a test. Valthera walked slowly. This place is hidden from most. It is where I think alone. Why bring me here? Because you don't speak like the others. You don't obey, but you don't fight either. That is ... different. Rylan looked around. It's beautiful. Do you come here often? Not enough? They walked in silence for a while. Then Rylan asked, Why did you really take me, Valthera? She stopped walking. For a moment, she didn't speak. My advisors told me to study humans from a distance. But I felt that was not enough. I wanted to see one up close, one who wasn't trained to lie or pretend, a real human. Rylan looked at her, not with anger, but with something else understanding. Then maybe you chose the right person, he said quietly. Just then, a young alien child ran into the garden. She tripped over a vine and fell. Her small arms were scratched. Rylan rushed forward. Are you okay? He asked gently. The girl looked up scared. She didn't speak. Rylan took a soft leaf from one of the nearby plants and gently pressed it to her wound. The bleeding stopped. The child stared at him in surprise. Belthora approached slowly. She is the daughter of a noble house. You touched her without permission. She was hurt, Rylan said. Helping someone doesn't need permission. The queen didn't reply. She looked at him, then at the girl, who now smiled at Rylan. Later, that evening, in her private chamber, Belthara sat in silence. Her advisors spoke of politics and threats from nearby systems, but her mind was elsewhere. The human he was not afraid. He acted with care, not duty. And he didn't see her as a ruler, but as a person. That night, whispers spread through the palace. The human helped a noble's child. The queen watched and said nothing. Something is changing. In his own room, Rylan looked out the glowing window. Stars blinked in the sky. He didn't know what tomorrow would bring, but something told him, though. Queen was watching him closely now, not as her subject, but as a mystery she wanted to understand. The next day began with silence. Commander Rylan sat by the crystal window of his chamber, watching strange birds fly across the glowing sky. The palace was quiet, almost peaceful. But Rylan could feel that something had changed after yesterday. The queen had seen him help a child. For the first time, she had not spoken as a ruler, but as a person. Soon, the floating orb appeared again. Commander Rylan, the queen requests your presence in the Garden of Echoes. Rylan stood up. Back to the garden, huh? Maybe she wants to see if I talk to flowers? He followed the guards through silver corridors. Alien nobles still watched him with careful eyes, but now some nodded quietly. The news had spread. Rylan wasn't just a human guest. He was something more. The Garden of Echoes was brighter today. Golden leaves shimmered in the air. The soft wind carried the sound of singing low and calm, like a lullaby from another world. Queen Belthara waited near a pond. Her hands were behind her back, her eyes watching the water. You came, she said, without turning. I was invited, Rylan replied with a small smile. She finally looked at him. Today you will not learn our culture. Today I will learn yours. Rylan blinked. You want me to teach? I want to listen, Belthora said. That is something we Ceridians rarely do. But I believe it is time. Rylan sat on a bench nearby. He thought for a moment, then spoke. All right, let me tell you about Earth music. Music, she asked. What is its purpose? To feel something, Rylan said. Sometimes joy, sometimes sadness. Sometimes nothing at all, is just peace. He pulled a small device from his belt. The Ceridians had allowed him to keep it. It had a few songs stored in its memory. He tapped the screen, and a soft melody played. Gentle notes floated through the air like feathers. Belthora closed her eyes. For a moment, her royal posture softened. This sound stirs the mind, she whispered. It stirs the heart, too, Rylan said. That's something we humans can't hide. We feel everything even when it hurts. Belthara opened her eyes and looked at him. You show your emotions freely. Our people consider that weakness. Rylan shook his head. That's not weakness. That's being alive. They sat in silence as the music continued. Then Belthara asked, Tell me a story. A human one. Rylan smiled. Okay, this one's from Earth's old days. There was a small village near a great mountain. A child got lost in a storm, and everyone was afraid. But one old man, nearly blind, went out alone and found the child. When people asked how he did it, he said, I may not see, but I remember the way by heart. The queen listened carefully, so the man used memory, not sight. He used love, Rylan corrected. He loved the child like his own. That's what guided him. Belthara sat quietly. Then she asked, Do you love anyone back on Earth? Rylan looked at the sky. My crew, my family, Friends? I don't know if I'll see them again. You may not, she said. I know, he replied. Velthar stood and walked slowly to a glowing tree. We Ceridians were trained not to love. We were taught that love leads to chaos. Or maybe Rylan said it leads to truth. She turned to face him. You speak boldly, human. And still, you remain respectful. I don't need to insult you to speak honestly, Rylan said. Back on Earth, we call that diplomacy. Suddenly, the garden shimmered. Soft blue light surrounded them.
Aye.
The queen raised her hand. A signal, she said. Someone has entered the inner palace. A Ceridian guard approached and bowed deeply. My queen, the High Council requests a private meeting. Concerns have risen. She nodded and turned to Rylan. Walk with me. It is time you saw the heart of Ceridian rule. Council Hall was a dark, tall room filled with floating seats and glowing emblems. 12 Ceridian elders sat in a circle, their faces calm but sharp. Velthera entered first, Rylan a step behind. Queen Velthora, one elder said, we question your growing bond with the human. He is here by my choice, she replied calmly. He teaches you strange customs, another said. He shows emotions, weakness. Velthera stood tall. He shows strength through kindness, something our empire has long forgotten. The council grew quiet. Rylan stepped forward. I'm not here to change your world. I'm here because your queen gave me a chance to speak. If that's dangerous, maybe it's time to ask why. An elder leaned forward. You claim humans are not a threat, yet your history is full of war? So is yours, Rylan replied gently. But maybe we can write something better together. Velthera looked at him, surprised. Not many would speak that way before the council. The oldest elder finally spoke. We will watch closely, but for now, we say nothing. The queen gave a small bow and left the chamber with Rylan. Outside, she turned to him. You face my counsel without fear? I face everything without knowing what comes next, Rylan said. It's the human way. She studied him for a moment. Then very quietly she said, You confuse me, human. He smiled. Then we're even. You confuse me too. They stood together under the glowing towers of the palace as the alien sky turned violet. Two worlds. Two minds. Beginning to understand one another. A quiet wind moved through the crystal towers of the Ceridian palace. The sky outside had turned to soft silver, a sign of the twin moons rising. Most of the palace was silent, but inside the Hall of Shadows, 12 Ceridian nobles had gathered. Nobles were not pleased. The human must be removed, said Lord Keller, his voice cold. He grows too close to the queen. He changes her, said Lady Morella. She smiles in public. She listens to his words more than ours. Another noble leaned forward. He teaches weakness, emotion. If this continues, the people will follow him. They all agreed something had to be done. Elsewhere in the palace, Rylan was in the Knowledge Garden, helping a young Ceridian boy use a hologram tablet. Rylan laughed softly as the boy created a glowing bird from light. You're getting good at this, Rylan said. It's better than me? The child smiled. Nearby servants watched with quiet respect. Rylan had become known among the palace staff not as a prisoner, but as someone kind, calm, and thoughtful. His presence felt different. Softer, warmer, like spring after a long winter. Just then, Queen Velthera arrived. The child bowed and ran off. You continue to surprise me, Rylan, she said. You teach without force. Rylan stood. You rule without fear. Velthera raised an eyebrow. That is a rare compliment among my kind, he smiled. It's rare among mine, too. They began walking through the quiet garden paths. Velthera spoke in a low voice. The council still watches us. But some nobles are restless. I can feel it, Rylan said. The looks, the whispers. They fear you. He looked surprised. I'm just one man. You're a human, she said. And more importantly, you've touched the heart of this palace. That is something they cannot control. That night, in a secret chamber beneath the palace, the nobles made their move. They sent an elite guard unit to Rylan's quarters with orders to quietly take him away. No harm, just silence. disappear him without trace. But Rylan was not there. He had gone to the observatory to watch the stars. When he returned, he noticed something strange. His door had been left slightly open. Inside, nothing was broken, but something felt off. Rylan's instincts kicked in. He had been a soldier before becoming an explorer. He knew danger. He stepped outside and went straight to Velthara's private chamber. The Queen looked up from a scroll when Rylan entered. "You arrive unannounced, Commander," she said. "Something wrong? Think someone tried to take?" "Me tonight," he said plainly. Her eyes sharpened. "Are you certain?" "My quarters were searched." Quietly, but not carefully enough. Velthar stood and pressed her hand on a panel. A screen opened in the air, showing a map of the palace. She spoke one word in Ceridian, and a glowing red path appeared, showing movement through the halls leading to his room. "Unauthorized. Traitors," she whispered. "They dare move behind my back. What will you do?" Rylan asked. "We'll show them that this throne is not weak," she said, "and that no one touches what belongs to the Queen." He looked at her. "Do you still think I belong to you?" She paused. "No, not anymore. But I will protect you because I choose." 2. The next morning, Queen Velthara called for a royal hearing in the Hall of Light. The nobles stood in lines, wearing formal robes. Rylan stood beside the Queen, silent but steady. Velthara spoke with power. "Last night, someone tried to remove my guest. My council may watch him, but no one may act without my word." She looked at each noble, her golden eyes like fire. "I know who moved, but I offer them a chance to step forward." Silence. Then Lord Keller stepped out. "We acted for the Empire, not against you. Oh, the human weakens our traditions." "The human brings balance," Velthara said. "He teaches us what we forgot, feeling kindness, choice." "You change, my queen," said Lady Morella. "Too much. I must change," Velthara replied, "or this empire will die alone." The hall grew quiet. Then Rylan spoke, his voice calm but strong. "I never asked to be here, but I stayed, because your queen gave me a chance. And in return, I showed you who we humans are: not perfect, not powerful, just people who care." He looked at them all. "If that's dangerous, then maybe you're afraid of more than me." The nobles didn't speak. Velthara stepped forward. "This hearing is over. Let it be known the human stays. Not as my subject, not as my servant, but as a bridge." Rylan turned to her, surprised. "A bridge between worlds," she said. "And perhaps, a friend." That night, the palace felt different. Guards nodded to Rylan with respect. Servants greeted him without fear. Stars outside seemed brighter. In his chamber, Rylan looked out the window. He had come as a prisoner now. He stood beside a queen, and maybe, just maybe, something greater was starting. The palace was alive with new energy. Word had spread that the human commander, Rylan, was no longer a prisoner. Instead, he was a guest of the Queen. More than that, it was a symbol, a bridge between the proud Ceridians and the curious humans. In the Grand Hall, Queen Velthara stood before a gathering of her closest advisors and the highest Ceridian nobles. Rylan was at her side, calm but alert. The Queen's voice carried strength. "We begin today a new chapter. The Bridge Project will unite Ceridians and humans through shared knowledge, trade, and culture," she announced. There was a murmur. Among the nobles, some looked doubtful, others curious. One elder asked, "How can we trust the humans after all they have done in the galaxy?" Velthara's eyes flashed. "Because Commander Rylan shows us their true nature, not through war, but through kindness." Rylan stepped forward. "Trust must be earned, not demanded. Right. I will help both our peoples learn from each other." Days turned into weeks. The Bridge Project began with small steps. Rylan taught Ceridians human language and customs. He introduced Earth's art, music, and stories. The Ceridians shared their advanced technology and history in return. In one large hall, humans and Ceridians gathered to watch a holographic display of Earth's forests. In oceans, many Ceridians gasped at the vibrant life. They had never seen such diversity. Velthora observed quietly. Sometimes she caught Rylan watching her with a gentle smile. One afternoon, in the Garden of Echoes, Velthera invited Rylan to walk with her. "You have changed much here," she said softly. "The people watch you differently now." Rylan nodded. "They see what humans really are." She stopped and looked at him. "I see something more, not just a human, but a friend." Rylan felt warmth rise in his chest. The bridge was not without challenges. Some Ceridians resisted. They whispered that the queen was too soft. Rylan's influence was dangerous. In the palace corridors, Rylan heard rumors. Once a young noble spat when he passed, but he never replied with anger. Instead, he focused on his mission. One evening, Velthera found Rylan studying a strange human instrument called a guitar. "You play well," she said. Rylan smiled. "Just simple songs. Music helps people share." Feelings Velthera listened as he played a gentle tune. The notes floated like soft rain. "You make me feel something I've not felt before," she admitted. Rylan looked up. "What is it?" "Hope," she said. Then came the day of the first official meeting between Ceridian and human diplomats. The grand hall was decorated with both flags Ceridian. Stars glowing beside Earth's blue-green sphere. Rylan stood beside Velthora as the leaders entered. Tension filled the air. Many humans were nervous. They had heard stories of the Ceridians' pride and strength, but Velthora smiled and raised her hand. "Today, we build peace," she said. "Together." Rylan added, "We come with open minds and open hearts." The meeting began with cautious words, but soon laughter and questions filled the room. Human diplomats asked about Ceridian art and music. Ceridians were curious about human food and festivals. Rylan and Velthora exchanged proud glances. Days later, as the sun set over the palace towers, Velthera and Rylan stood on the balcony. "The bridge is stronger than I imagined," she said. Rylan looked at the stars. "It's just the beginning." Velthora turned to him. "You no longer belong to me as a prisoner." Rylan smiled. "I never did." She stepped closer. "Then stay, not because you must, but because you choose to." Took her hand gently. "I choose to stay." The stars above seemed to shine brighter as two worlds began to come together. Commander Rylan stood on the balcony of the Ceridian palace, gazing out at the twin moons rising over the glowing city. The sky was a swirl of colors: deep purple, soft blue, and silver light. The wind carried the faint scent of alien flowers. Beside him stood Queen Velthora, her golden eyes watching the horizon. "Earth's fleet has arrived," the floating orb said softly, interrupting the silence. Rylan nodded. He had received the message hours before the Orion dawn had returned. Ready to bring him home? The moment had come. Inside the palace, the news spread quickly. The humans were here. They wanted to take Rylan back. Velthera called for a private meeting with her advisors. "This is a turning point," she said. "Commander Rylan must choose." Her advisors nodded, some looking worried. Rylan himself had mixed feelings. He missed his crew. He missed Earth's blue skies and green trees. But he had also found something new: a connection with Velthera. A purpose beyond exploration. That evening, Velthora led Rylan to the royal garden. The soft glow of bioluminescent plants lit their path. "Will you go home?" she asked quietly. Rylan looked down at his hands. "I don't know." Velthera stopped and faced him. "You once had no choice. Now, the choice is yours." He met her gaze. "What if I choose to stay?" A smile touched her lips. "Yes, then you will be welcome. Not as a prisoner, but as a partner." Rylan took a deep breath. "I want to stay," he said, "not because I'm forced, but because I want to. Build this future with you." The next morning, a ceremony was held in the grand hall. Humans and Ceridians stood together as Velthera and Rylan spoke. "We are no longer two distant worlds," Velthera declared. We are united in hope and friendship. Rylan added, the bridge is more than a project. The crowd cheered, and for the first time, human and Ceridian flags were raised side by side. Later, in a quiet room, Velthora and Rylan shared a simple meal. She looked at him thoughtfully. Do you regret coming here? Rylan shook his head. Never. I found more than I expected. She said softly, found more than I dared to hope. They smiled. A new bond, forming a bond not of ownership, but of trust and respect. Days passed, and the bridge project grew stronger. Humans and Ceridians learned from each other. Children played together in the gardens. Scientists shared ideas. Artists created new forms of beauty. Rylan and Velthora often walked side by side, their friendship deepening. One night beneath the stars, Velthora said, You changed my world, Rylan. He smiled, and you changed mine. Together, they looked up at the vast galaxy full of possibilities.